CNBC host Sara Fagen is going to give the worst political analysis I've ever heard. This is on the issue of how the political spectrum is in America. Let's watch.
When you see the Sanders, do you think it is dragging Hillary Clinton to the left in a bad way, or do you think actually it's making her a better candidate?
I think it's dragging her to the left in a bad way. I mean, the reality is, if you look back over the last 20 years, the left of the Democratic Party has moved farther than the right of the Republican Party. On
I think
taxes,
everybody would agree with you on that.
No, but on taxes, on spending, on social issues.
They both moved farther to their bases.
They did, but they moved more. And her ability to win a general election is her ability to run as a centrist candidate. And Bernie Sanders is going to make that very difficult for her.
Like, oh, yeah, you know, Bernie Sanders is pulling Hillary to the left. It's going to make it really hard for her to win a general election. It's just repeated over and over and over and over and over. And nobody says, hey, wait a second. What's your evidence for that? Because you seemingly just pulled it out of your ass. You want to know why? Because you did pull it out of your ass and everybody just accepted it. But the dynamic on the left does not work the same as it does on the right. So on the right, that indeed is true, where you have somebody like Rick Santorum or Mike Huckabee. They say insane things. They say things that are fascist or theocratic in nature. And then, you know, whoever the candidate ends up being, whether it's John McCain or Mitt Romney in the past two elections, they have to run to the right in the primary, and then they have to sprint back to the center in the general election. And the reason for that is the general population in America is nowhere near as insane as Mike Huckabee or Rick Santorum. But flip the script, when you're talking about the Democrats, Bernie Sanders, although you guys call him far left, he really represents mainstream sentiment in America. And that's not me talking, that's all of the polling data. I said it before, I'll say it again. You tell me the issue, I'll show you the poll where Bernie Sanders has a majority of the American people on his side. Minimum wage, they're with him. Ending the wars overseas, they're with him. Taxing the rich more, they're with him. Keeping Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid the same and education spending the same, they're with him. In fact, Bernie wants to increase it, and that's actually really popular as well. So you name the issue, I'll show you where people are with Bernie Sanders. So this idea that, you know, oh, the further left the Democrats run, they're getting extreme. No, they're not getting extreme. They're getting more right in the middle of the mainstream, the further left they run. And that's why I always talk about on this show, you know, I'm labeled as some sort of a far left guy. In reality, I really am an international centrist. And what I mean by that is I'm not trying to scrap capitalism and start from scratch and come up with some new anarchist utopia or some shit. No, I think certain aspects of capitalism are necessary. You just have to regulate it and have safety nets and things like that. And Bernie Sanders is 100% with me. He's not really a socialist. He might call himself a socialist, but in terms of where he actually falls on the spectrum, he's more of a social democrat because he also believes in keeping certain aspects of capitalism. So we're not, you know, some sort of extremists. We're very moderate. We're very centrist. We're right in the mainstream of, American opinion. Never mind if you look at what people think in Europe and places like that. So it's untrue, but they keep repeating it. And you saw how Chuck Todd fired back in classic Chuck Todd fashion. He can't just say, you're wrong, because he doesn't know, because he has that job, because he doesn't know. So what did he do? Immediate false equivalence. Like, no, the left is not more extreme than the right. The far left today isn't more extreme. They both moved to the extremes. That's not true! The left has also moved to the right over the years. There's nobody even Bernie Sanders isn't near FDR on the political spectrum. Lyndon B. Johnson, for all of his flaws, and he had many, he waged a war on poverty. He signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Lyndon B. Johnson is way to the left of any Democrat today in elected office. This idea that the left has moved further left, my ass they have. What an insane position. So, when you say that the left has moved further left, and, you know, the right is, oh, they're the reasonable ones, they're the moderate ones, then how the fuck do you explain people like Mike Huckabee, who said we should redo the Constitution to reflect God's will? That's not moving to the right? That absolutely is moving to the right. How do you explain people like Ted Cruz? How do you explain the entire Republican Congress, where they tried to repeal Obamacare 51 times. And actually, I think that number's outdated. I think it's like 54 times. So over 50 times they try to repeal Obamacare. Oh, these guys, they're the moderate ones. They're the reasonable ones. They haven't moved to the right at all. How many examples do you want me to give, man? I can go on and on. They broke the fucking filibuster record under President Obama. President Obama, a centrist Democrat, a corporatist Democrat who's given them a lot of what they say they want, they still found a way to break the filibuster record. How is that possible? It's possible because they've gotten so fucking extreme, they've gone so far right, and they don't even pretend to try to represent the American people anymore. She's talking about how the Democrats are radical when it was the Republicans who filibustered a background check bill that had over 90% support of the American people. Over 90% support. So the Democrats are with 90% of the American people when they propose legislation. The Republicans block it anyway, and your takeaway is, oh, these Democrats have gotten so extreme. They're so extreme for agreeing with 90% of Americans, man. This is crazy. No, see, the thing is, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Miss CNBC host. But that's right in line with how CNBC functions anyway. The entire network is fucking ridiculous. The entire network is nothing but for corporate propaganda, for Wall Street propaganda. Let me ask you guys a question. Would you trust a network that says they're financial experts, they're economic experts? Meanwhile, none of them saw the Great Recession coming. None of them saw the subprime mortgage crisis coming. None of them saw it. All the experts, whoa, look at that. The subprime mortgage crisis, Great Recession, the biggest crash since the Great Depression. Whoa, who could have saw it coming? I didn't see it coming. Anybody who really analyzes the data in an objective way and has a brain can see it coming. If you don't need to know all that much about economics or politics to know that there was a fucking bubble there that was going to burst. The only person who got it right that was on the network and he was laughed at is Peter Schiff, a libertarian economist. So are you fucking kidding me? How absurd is this? This entire network is a sham, and you can see when they send out their hosts to go on Meet the Press like they're super serious, they say the dumbest shit imaginable.